What's up, sons? It's Blind Red with Son of a Tech once again, and today we need to talk about SRBMiner and Dynex. Essentially, SRBMiner is going the way of the dinosaur and has been banned by Dynex. However, it will remain for a little while until a new AMD miner is presented. Let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome back, everyone. So to give you the quick and short of it, SRBMiner found an advantage that was slowly implemented over multiple releases since as far back as at least 2.3.1, and that eventually led to the fact that in practice, SRBMiner would never actually solve the useful work on the SAT side of things. Remember, you have SAT and you have ML. So depending on which one there, you could say that it was still solving some of the work. Now, I dug into this and tried to pull up everything I could, but the first obvious release announcement from Dynex has been posted on Twitter now. We'll go over that. This is an important update. After thorough analysis of the SRBMiner software, we deem necessary to report the following findings. 1, machine learning job calculations are computed accurately, like I just stated. Functionally of the Dynex SDK has never been compromised, or functionality. It was detected, number 2, that SAT jobs, which are run by a different kernel in SRB, are only partially being calculated. To be specific, there has been a limit variable introduced which limits the number of chips being calculated to 40% of the number of chips being reported in the terminal. It was identified that this ratio was consistently lowered over previous releases to increase hash rate. The interesting thing here, of course, was just doing this optimization essentially of removing some of the work on the SRB developer side of things to kind of make it not super obvious, but just make it look like it was incremental improvements in that miner's ability to mine Dynex, when in fact it was just removing portions of the work over a long period of time. SRB managed to bypass our internal test benches with the separation of 2 different computing kernels, one for ML and one for SAT. That's another lesson learned, and we can report that things like this cannot happen in Dynex Solve 2.3.5 Malibless mining. Newly introduced validation and reading of voltages of arbitrary chips, as well as rigorous test vectors, which have been deployed yesterday, is eliminating such possibilities, is further strengthening and in the entanglement between proof of work and proof of useful work, and forms the foundation for removing proof of work entirely. Such news are never pleasant, but on the positive side, we did evolve and improve our project, got even more hardened against malicious activities. It is also worth noting that we expect the new miners releasing their first versions shortly, which all of them will have passed the enhanced test vectors. SRB will be removed from the network through a transitional phase to the upcoming AMD versions. Now, I'll give you guys a little bit of a hint. I think this new version for AMD on Dynex will be coming from BZMiner. There may be some other in-house ones I'm not aware of, as you do have, of course, the Dynex Solve 2.3.5, which is in-house. So maybe they're also working on AMD support over there. Now, as a miner, if you are mining with AMD GPUs, it does appear that you're going to be able to continue to use SRBMiner. So I suppose you could take advantage of that. And that's kind of where ethically things are a little confusing. Ethically, of course, something here was done by SRBMiner that is questionable. Now, because Dynex doesn't want to kick a bunch of AMD GPUs off of the network, they're kind of letting this slide. So as a miner, you can technically get an advantage still if you have AMD GPUs until this is resolved, which is kind of interesting. The question is, should you do that from an ethical perspective, or should you move on to something else? Now, when I went ahead and was digging into this, we do have Yeti that deep dived the issue. Here is the memory dump kind of going over it. I would definitely check out his posts in relation to this issue so you can get a better idea from a technical perspective. And then I did talk to Doctor and get permission from him to share this. I just said the Dynex situation, he went on to say that everything they wrote in their announcement is true. Doctor is the developer, by the way, for SRBMiner. He did say he would add these 3 things, so I'll let him speak his mind. He said, 1, miners got more profit by using my miner. Many mined Dynex only because they could do plus Zilica, at least on the NVIDIA side of things. Number 2, Dynex got 0 damage, is his claim, or harm for me doing less chips on the never going to be solved job number 3 calculations, or job number 3. However, calculations were done correctly. Now, I talked to Yeti in this particular case, and my understanding is that this problem, the job number 3, could be solved. It would just take a lot of GPU power, and obviously it would never get solved if one of the largest miners is not putting any work into it. So the whole point is to solve this problem, or this job, and that's not getting done. Now, number 3, machine learning jobs had no cap on chips. Everything was working and was calculated as it should. We were aware of that. We covered that. Number 4, he says competition with 1.0 miner who could use or is using. He says he doesn't know because he didn't reverse engineer the 1.0 miner. Disadvantage 2 is the only one that got hurt by less users using it. And then he asked what my perspective on this is. And I'll tell you, my response was Dynex should still be in testnet. And in fact, when I was talking with this on Twitter, there was a post by Fox Crypto, which I will get for you guys up here in just a sec. And he said that I keep seeing Dynex centralized crap in my feed over SRBMiner support being dropped from the project. The software was exploiting code to make cards more efficient. Why are we not bashing SRBMiner for exploiting a project? Instead, Dynex devs are under fire. Come on, man. To which I replied, I think your take should account for the nuance here. The fact is that Dynex should probably still be in testnet. I think the reason you are seeing this is it can only be reliably stopped on the algo side. It cannot be reasonably stopped by trying to force third parties to play nice. Essentially, you don't blame the hackers for the impact of a ransomware attack on a network. You rework your disaster recovery and security to prevent it and reduce the damages, essentially on the disaster recovery side. And I still stand by this post. Dynex is responsible here more than SRBMiner. It should be the de facto default to expect people to exploit things for financial gain if you have that vulnerability available. And you know, if we talk about this completely frankly, I did ask, do you regret it to Doctor? And he said, I do, but greed was stronger than me. And that's the entire problem here at the end of the day, is like, you need to understand that once greed comes into play, people will do unethical things for profit. You have to understand that Doctor made a lot of money off of Dynex by having the fastest miner and by supporting dual mining with Zilica. And that temptation to maintain that higher hash rate and a competitive advantage is sometimes too strong for people to ethically basically handle. And if you are a project or a company that's trying to mitigate these damages, that's on your side to make sure that you have all of this stuff lined up. My response at the end of the day was that Dynex should probably still be in testnet. And that is kind of the fact of the matter. The thing is once again, if we're talking here on the reality is first to market is a big deal. And we're talking about proof of useful work being first to market. Dynex is first to market with proof of useful work, which gives them a competitive advantage. You could say, just on the flip side here, that it was an ethical mistake for Dynex to release with a product that was not ready to be secured against these vulnerabilities. So, you know, this is a lot more of a nuanced topic. Dynex is doing the work that they need to do to get it to basically a functional proof of useful work solution. And SRBMiner is obviously regretful over this. Like we just showed, Doctor is regretful over this. But unfortunately, this does mean that SRBMiner is going to lose a lot of faith, I think, with miners, and as it should, right? However, you know, this is also going to impact Dynex, as it should, Well, because the project isn't fully ready yet. Now, with the malleable endpoints that are coming in, which is going to further decentralize essentially the mining on the network, so you're not going through a single malleable endpoint, that problem should be resolved along with it. We'll just have to sit back, wait, and watch. And I think I'm still bullish on Dynex because they are first to market. I do, however, think that maybe some more testing needed to be done beforehand. Keep in mind, though, Dynex at the end of the day was not a blockchain project from the ground up either. It really started as the entire machine learning side of things and then developed into basically taking advantage of hardware that's been laying around for miners after the merge from Ethereum, which was a smart thing to do. So I think the experience as it grows on the Dynex team over the next few years or months or years or whatever it may be, that you will see basically a more polished product and project that is out there. I do think that hopefully, SRBMiner can recover. Doctor's done some really great work. Obviously, he's able to find these vulnerabilities. Unfortunately, he didn't report them as he should have right off the bat. And I think once again, you'll have some new miner support from BZMiner, etc. in the near future. Doctor's kind of reasoning behind this is that basically Dynex should build their own miners and their own in-house miners. But of course, that's going to lend itself more to centralized platform. And that is the problem with proof of useful work that needs to be resolved at the end of the day, is proof of useful work is extremely centralized. And I'm not sure that we can resolve that fully. If you look at the capability that Dynex has had to basically get rid of older versions of miners and get rid of mining pools having more than 30% of the hash rate, it means that the Dynex team does have a lot of control over the network, which does mean, just in general, it is extremely more decentralized or centralized, and that does mean because it lacks the decentralization, if the development team were to go and just ditch the project, well, everybody else, the miners, the participants on the network, the holders of Dynex coin are basically SOL. So keep that in mind when you are looking at this project. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below, and I will see you next Tuesday. Don't forget to check out my crypto mining e-course at sonofatech.com. With the purchase of the e-course, you can get a free month membership of my supporter status at sonofatech.locals.com, where I post my daily moves.